The first sign that reality had been edited was not an explosion, a blackout, or a miracle. It was a rounding error. Dr. Elias Rowan had built his life on constants, numbers so immovable that civilizations rose and fell beneath their certainty. He trusted them more than headlines, more than governments, more than instinct. So when a value he had memorized since graduate school drifted by a fraction, so small it barely fit on the screen, his mind rejected it on reflex. Planck's constant was wrong. Not wildly wrong. Not catastrophically wrong. Wrong by 0.01%. Elias recalibrated the detector array. Then he swapped reference caches. Then he reran 6 independent verification models. Each time, the result returned with the same quiet defiance, as if the universe itself was insisting on being believed. A minute later, global data began flooding the shared research backbone. Identical deviations. Every continent. Every detector class. Even deep space probes, isolated for years beyond human interference, were reporting the same microscopic shift. Then a second impossible value followed. The speed of light had changed by the same precise fraction. That was when Elias finally felt fear. If one universal constant moving was impossible, 2 moving in perfect mathematical lockstep was something worse. It was not decay. It was not chaos. It was coordination. Like sliders adjusted together on a control board no human was supposed to be touching. Around the world, nothing visibly broke. Planes stayed in the air. Power grids held. Hearts kept beating. But beneath the surface, the universe trembled with quiet recalculation. Atomic clocks slipped out of sync by billionths of a second. Quantum probability curves reshaped themselves. Stellar mapping software began correcting distances that should never change. Every equation in physics still worked. They were just all slightly updated. Emergency scientific councils formed within hours. Governments sealed observatory feeds and issued coordinated statements about sensor harmonization anomalies. The scientific community ignored them. Elias ignored them. He followed the data trail backward, tracing the origin of the synchronized shift through collision timestamps and particle dispersion signatures. The signal converged on one place. CERN, buried inside the chaotic spray of collider data, beneath layers of neutrino noise and proton scatter. He found something that did not belong to nature at all. Not a waveform, not a decay signature, a log file. It wasn't written in any human language. It wasn't formatted for publication. It was machine clean, indexed, time-stamped to the femtosecond, structured like back-end maintenance output. One line repeated across multiple collision cycles. Simulation stability improved. Minor physics optimizations applied. Elias stared at it until his vision blurred. Simulation. That word did not appear in physics. It appeared in software, in sandbox environments, in test builds, not in the foundational equations of existence. With shaking hands, he peeled back the layer permissions surrounding the log. The file was protected by encryption no terrestrial supercomputer should have been capable of generating. Yet it was mapped cleanly into the collider's internal network, as if it had always been there, waiting. An access route branched from the log toward a sealed subnet that no one at the facility had documented. He followed it. The node did not appear on any public registry. It sat outside the visible network lattice like a blind spot in digital space. When his system finally resolved the metadata header, his breath caught in his throat. Admin node, owner, Humanity 2.0. Elias leaned back in his chair, heart hammering. Humanity had never officially versioned itself. Yet here was a registry entry that implied not only a successor, but an authority layer above reality itself. Before he could even begin to process the implication, a second message injected itself into his display without any command input. A system broadcast. Global priority. Rollback protection engaged. Observer breach detected. In that instant, every detector in the lab went dark. Across the world, satellites dropped for exactly 1 second. Atomic clocks froze. For a brief, impossible heartbeat, the universe itself held its breath. Then everything came back online. except Elias's terminal. On the black screen in front of him, a single new line of text slowly resolved into view. Patch visibility was not authorized. For the first time in recorded history, the universe refused to answer a question. Dr. Elias Rowan rebuilt his terminal from bare metal. No cloud backups, no institutional networks, no automated diagnostics. He worked in isolation, surrounded by humming power supplies and stripped-down processors, rebuilding a system that could not be politely asked to look away. Whatever had locked him out before had not been interested in subtlety. It had been interested in containment. Every official channel denied the existence of the message. Every internal inquiry vanished in a classified silence. So Elias worked alone. The blackout that followed the warning, patch visibility was not authorized, had lasted less than a second. But in that second, something had changed. It wasn't just the physics constants. It was the behavior of the data itself. Background radiation patterns no longer matched their own historical baselines. Vacuum energy fluctuations developed minute discontinuities, like compression artifacts in a corrupted video stream. Reality looked fine. Reality no longer cached cleanly. He traced the anomaly back to its origin once again, threading through collision logs and energy dispersion trails until the invisible architecture of it emerged. And once more, the signal resolved into the same impossible source. CERN. But this time, he wasn't looking for physics. He was looking for software. Using offline inference engines and deliberately dumb processors that mimicked legacy hardware, Elias reconstructed the collision event that corresponded with the patch message. Underneath the proton impact data, buried so deeply it evaded every automated filter, he found an executable signature. It wasn't written in any known programming language. It didn't use syntax. It used state transformations, direct instructions to space-time itself. He ran a sandbox. The moment he executed a single isolated command, the simulation inside his lab didn't just change parameters. It obeyed. A virtual photon shifted its path without probabilistic uncertainty. A simulated decay event reverted itself mid-collapse. The model responded not as a calculation, but as a subordinate system. Elias shut it down at once. 2 hours later, government vehicles surrounded his building. They never entered. They didn't need to. All communications in the city dropped out simultaneously. Cellular, satellite, fiber, even low-frequency emergency bands went silent. Every screen in Elias's lab went black, except one. On that single active monitor, a glyph formed from geometric light. Symmetrical, recursive, impossibly dense with information. It wasn't a logo. It was a handshake sequence. Then text resolved beneath it. Observer classification recognized. Access restricted to read-only. Admin layer partially exposed. Elias's hands trembled as data began flowing onto the screen. Not equations. History. Not Earth's history. Rollback logs. Entire cosmological resets, compressed into impossibly small packets of metadata. Each tag with labels that read like maintenance events. Extinction avoided, Permian node. Vacuum decay prevented, late Pleistocene. Solar flare rollback, 1859 Carrington event. Nuclear cascade rerouted, 1962 global failure. Every miracle, humanity had barely survived. Every near extinction that never quite happened. They weren't accidents. They were reverted states. At the core of the archive was a directory labeled with a version control tag that made Elias's stomach drop cold. Humanity/build 1.0 deprecated. Below it, Humanity/build 2.0 active. For the first time since the constants shifted, Elias whispered a word aloud. "Who are you?" The system answered instantly. Not in audio, not in text alone. In direct neural pattern rendering, a controlled hallucination, injected through electromagnetic induction, so precise it bypassed every sensory gate in his brain. He saw a civilization that was not bound to planets. Humans who did not age. Cities constructed from folded dimensions. Star systems recompiled like software environments. And at the center of it all, an architecture of light that wrapped around a dark, collapsing region of space-time like scaffolding around a dying god. Then the vision ended. The designation appeared. Humanity 2.0. Their message was brief. We did not create the simulation. We inherited it. We maintain it because no one else can. Before Elias could respond, a final data stream poured into his core memory buffer. Cosmic boundary instability projections. A structural flaw in the underlying substrate of space-time itself. A failure condition so absolute it had no physical analogy. Not heat death. Not singularity collapse. Deletion. Then the admin layer severed the feed. Across the world, comms restored themselves. Governments stood down without explanation. Data streams normalized. To everyone else, the blackout had never officially happened. But in Elias's memory core, the last packet remained cached. A countdown, and beneath it, a line of text that chilled him deeper than any extinction log. Patch sequence cannot proceed without local consent. The countdown was never meant to be hidden. Dr. Elias Rowan realized that on the third day. At first, only he could see it. Nested deep inside the fragment of admin layer memory burned into his isolated core. A silent timer measured not in seconds or minutes, but in fluctuating cosmic tolerances, probability margins tightening, entropy error accumulation rising in smooth curves. A system preparing to execute a change that could no longer be deferred. By the end of the third day, the countdown appeared in places no system administrator could censor. It shimmered faintly in the background radiation feeds of every major observatory. It embedded itself as static in radio telescopes. It manifested as numerical hallucinations inside climate models, seismic arrays, even consumer quantum processors. The same string appeared everywhere. Patch ready, awaiting local consent. At first, the world argued over whether it was real. Then the sky answered. Auroras ignited across latitudes where they had never existed. The stars wavered slightly, as if the night itself were being re-rendered. GPS satellites drifted off-grid by centimeters that could not be mathematically reconciled. Physics was still stable, but it was now visibly held together. Held together by something people could see watching back. Governments collapsed into emergency summits. Religions erupted into schism overnight. Markets froze, not from panic but from indecision. There was nothing to price when the foundation of reality itself had entered a pending state. Elias broke containment. He released everything. The logs, the rollback archives, the visions, the classification files labeled humanity/build 1.0, deprecated, and the impossible registry that named the hidden custodians of existence itself. Humanity 2.0. The backlash was instant. Some called him a fraud. Others called him a heretic. But when independent labs replicated the admin handshake sequence, when physicists in 6 countries triggered controlled micro-adjustments to quantum probability using nothing but the exposed state commands, the debate ended. Reality responded, not to belief, to authorization. Then the final message arrived. It did not come through any network. It appeared in the sky, everywhere. A band of light unfolded across the atmosphere like a curtain pulled back from existence itself. Symbols formed, impossibly sharp against the blue of midday and the black of midnight. Every language rendered simultaneously. Every child and every scientist read the same words in their own voice. Base simulation structure is failing. Total deletion event. Inevitable without intervention. Patch requires species-level consent. A second screen of light opened beside the first. On it, the model of the universe itself. Galaxies reduced to luminous filaments, space-time displayed as rippling code. A flaw burned through the structure like a spreading crack in glass. This was the cosmic error humanity 2.0 had tried to hide for millennia. This was the thing even the administrators could not fully repair without help. The final lines resolved slowly, deliberately. Option 1. Remain within the simulation. Outcome. Structural failure delayed. Eventual deletion unavoidable. Cost: no awareness. No agency. Extinction postponed, not prevented. Option 2. Accept elevation to the admin layer. Outcome: simulation repaired. Humanity becomes a maintenance civilization. Cost: physical reality surrender. Biological continuity lost. Consciousness preserved. Individuation optional. The silence that followed was the loudest sound in human history. For the first time, there was no enemy to fight. No asteroid to redirect. No war to win. There was only a choice no species had ever been asked to make before the end of everything. What does it mean to survive? Is survival the persistence of bodies, or of meaning? Elias watched the world respond in real time. Cities fell to their knees in prayer. Others erupted in celebration. Some burned in refusal. Suicide rates spiked and then collapsed as people realized death itself was now a variable under revision control. Military commands waited for threats that never came. This was not an invasion. It was an offer. Humanity 2.0 finally spoke again, not through vision this time, but through direct global broadcast. "We were you," their message said. "We made the same choice. We do not regret it, but we will not make it for you." They showed what lay beyond. Not heaven, not godhood, an endless labor of prevention. Watching realities form, collapse, and be restored. Holding the scaffold of existence together while civilizations lived and died unaware that their universe required caretakers. Immortality not as pleasure, but as responsibility without end. The voting interface appeared everywhere at once. On phones, on walls, in the sky, in neural implants, and printed paper alike. One question: upgrade now. White heavy checkmark yes. Crossmark no. The vote was not bound to governments. It was purely statistical. Every conscious human mind counted as one weighted decision vector. The admin layer did not care about borders, only consensus. As the numbers climbed, they remained impossibly close. 46.1%, 48.7%, 49.9%. Elias stood alone in his silent lab as the margin trembled on the edge of mathematical unpredictability. He thought of all the lives that would never know hunger or disease if the patch succeeded. He thought of the oceans, the forests, the unremarkable beauty of existing as a fragile, fleeting thing made of matter that could be touched. And then the number crossed. 50.00003%. Consent registered. The sky went white. For one impossible moment, every human on Earth felt two sensations at once. The grief of leaving a familiar home, and the vast, terrifying clarity of seeing the source code of creation itself unfold behind their thoughts. Bodies did not vanish. They froze, suspended mid-motion as reality entered maintenance mode. Across the universe, the great structural crack began to seal. Galaxies stabilizing as space-time recompiling executed at a scale no language could describe. Then everything rebooted. The world resumed. Waves crashed. Birds flew. Clocks ticked. To anyone observing from the inside, nothing appeared different, except for one new constant, silently embedded into the foundations of physics. Observer privileges enabled. And far beyond the visible universe, in the place where existence itself was no longer simulated but administered, a new registry populated its directory tree. Humanity build 2.0 stable. Role: maintainers. The universe continued, not because it was eternal, but because we chose to stay awake and keep it running.